Here we go. This was something that actually I was thinking about because it's something that with environmentalism, the kind of constituents that are highly into environmentalism and sort of then these people who they go along with it because they're relatively moderate people. So at some point somebody goes, well, what do you think about the environment? And they have some moderate view. They think it through probably, and they're like, well, I like the environment. It's not like they're against it. They can't. That doesn't make any sense to them. That don't make any sense. And they're like, yeah, I guess I'm for it. I'm for the environment. Yes, I suppose. So this thing of really a lot of Americans being sort of shockingly moderate is where you end up having like, okay, well, but the essence of this movement and maybe 60 years of its efforts to become normal it's not moderate in its basis. And so people end up at some point being like, well, I don't really get why these people think this, that, or the other, or that doesn't. It's like, well, why are they so extreme? Extreme environmentalists, or something like that. Where now I'm more and more, I'm like, the next generation is much sort of keen. They're more keen to this. They get it a bit better. Like us Gen Xers and then the millennials kind of saw like, this hippie shit is kind of goofy, and really, a lot of this recycling, it doesn't get recycled. It just gets thrown out. And a lot of it never even was recyclable. It just ends up in like Manila Bay, and so because there was enough of us who, and this was stuff that you would know if you were on the left. So after a while, you just start doubting a lot of the goodwill kind of news. You doubt this idea that, because, dude these presidents were all okay with this guy, now suddenly he's wiping out his own people because they finally saw through his tricks and lies. And it's like, wait, but we had 3 presidencies that supported him. I don't understand this. How is this working? So now you have this incredible skepticism that's grown. It's very, very healthy, and it's very, very good. And people who are skeptics of all sorts are, have gone from, the blogosphere to YouTube to then all these, now all these mini platforms that people are like, I'm kind of skeptical of that information. And that it's very interesting to see now, but you can't be skeptical about this. You can't be skeptical about that. This has been decided. Oh, by whom? The scientists. They decided this. Everybody knows that. So the democratization of information has led to then there being people who, and in ideologies that are totally unable to adapt to it. Christianity is completely adapted to the many, 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 many forms of assaults and skepticisms against it. And now Orthodox Christianity grows in an era of super technological advancement to the point that we're coming up with what I was looking for before in an earlier video was the word organoid. So the entire kind of structure of the left is now shaking because people are like, well, we're a little skeptical of a lot of your theories here. Because, those of us who are steeped in your ideas know that they're actually like a very, very large number of theories all stacked on top of one another. This is mostly academic, and it's not very real. It's been rejected by lots and lots and lots of countries. There's entire populations that used to, they used to kind of be your playground, and now, like, they don't want to have anything to do with you. You keep kind of forcing yourself onto them in the Eastern European sphere. So more and more, I'm starting to really kind of think of, like, we're going to see the left unravel in a very new way. And I'm kind of fascinated to see, because they don't have the same kind of interesting multi-subcultural gumbo kind of going on, that you're kind of like, I wonder what this is going to come out to be in 20 years. Or here and there were like these sort of amazing phenomena, like Samurai Jack and Afro Samurai, and what was it, the El McKell's affair. Like, that's fantastic. Like El McKell's affair or Sean Lee's Ping Pong Orchestra. Those are two examples of something that comes out of a milieu of culture, that it's like, well, is something like this going to continue in advance? Will America keep having soul? That's very important to me. Because of this, a lot of the academic theory of the left, but not really what's coming out of sort of a practical understanding of the world, the bitter and sweet of things. Yeah, it's not all winning. Winning with Donald Trump right now is winning with Donald Trump for right now. It's not, and now we've conquered you, wah ha ha, and we, no. But there's a lot of things that are being done, because really, the left, a lot of kind of the more moderate Democrat kind of people don't really know. Like, no. There are definitely rings of criminals that are exceedingly dangerous that have gotten in here. And I mean, like, you guys fucked up. Like, by the end of this, it's going to be pretty fascinating to see what the reports on who was found, who was ejected, all that. But it's, I mean, like most people that I tend to agree with in the long run, I'm quite sure Vance will be next up, and bam, and you guys fucked up, and it's going to be a change in things that I think is going to fracture the left. Especially being that so many people recognize this as the modernists, and how modernism has come to a point that it's eating itself. It can't now any longer kind of organize outside of really traditional bounds. Where that used to be the big thing. That was the whole thing with the revolution and the modernist left, is that they were very, very good at organizing. But now that's not as much the case. They've really become a people that are very, very dependent upon institutions of some kind of prestige or power to help them or give them sort of cred. And that's starting to give out. Now there's also the thing of a lot of these schools, that universities, that if you end up having certain kinds of political functions going on, or you're seen as being a part of certain kinds of ideas, things like that, you're going to have somebody breathing down your neck about your funding. There's a lot of that. The federal funding, that's going to be, and which is also going to have to make, is the left going to say, why are we so dependent on that? Like, why isn't it state by state? Why aren't we organized where we live to help to create the communities we want? And then the last thing I was kind of thinking about, once again, was really cool design. So what I've been looking at for a number of years, the easiest way of finding these channels is Earthships. But sustainable housing, things like that. A lot of this stuff there's really interesting design ideas that will pop up. And I'm really starting to actually kind of wrap my mind around this idea that the new environmentalism has to be based around simply better designing of places. And yeah, I've just been thinking about this more, because like seeing how this has been done here in Eugene, with some of the streets, with some of the drainage, how there's a maintenance, like you could see there's even small trees. They're always trying to plant trees, and that keeps the summer heat a certain way, keeps a certain amount of moisture in the air. It just and all around, everybody likes it better. So the more I've been thinking about, like, no, the big deal now is how do you start redesigning a lot of these cities that we aren't going to have the kind of numbers for a while to really populate them. This is actually kind of a weird thing to think about. You're going to see sections of completely living cities vanish, like nobody living in whole blocks of the most magnificent buildings, like in the Western world, and someone's going to have to figure out something to do with these buildings, or just tear them down. And that's the next thing. It's shocking how you can actually find out, like, people will map out very easily. No, here's the calculation. There's a formula for this, and this building is now history because it's reached this number. It's now an asset that somebody's just paying to sort of own. Look at my fucking sweet building, that I don't do anything with, and is and is possibly zoned in a way. So, and then there's that you'll see these things reach some obsolescence because there'll be the zoning, that they'll reach a state of obsolescence because of the zoning, that they're not zoned for that, or that it just was never built for that another function, say other than offices or something, and it's just not worth refurbishing. The only thing I've seen any different than that is someplace up, I believe, in Boston, and that it was actually a historic site that they refurbished into apartments, and it was like an old mall, and they refurbished it into like really small apartments, and that was very interesting. But it from what I recall, it required the historic marking, and it also ended up requiring, if I remember correctly, almost like a whole effort by the city to do it, which and there we go. That's going to be one of the problems everyone's going to be facing. You have buildings that are going to be going into obsolescence because of the use of populations that just aren't there. That the numbers of people aren't there to use a lot of this space. So the building becomes obsolete. What do we do then with design so that we have sort of the cityscapes that we want? Because the cityscapes that we in the long term want, that's where my mind is starting to go with a lot of this. Because you can't just sort of will businesses into existence in these buildings. we'll just businesses will just appear in all these buildings, and there's fewer people to do it. And it also is this thing of who wants to be a business person necessarily in big downtown busy business person doing business all the time. Like, does everybody dream of that? Being alpha as fuck? There's maybe there's a whole generation that want to be farmers. And we're not. A lot of the bet we had that we would see something like Hong Kong circa 98 in every American downtown has totally not panned out. So what are we gonna do is what a lot of my thinking is now about it. And especially then the issue of, are the cities going to become these lonely places full of old folks, while the young try to get away from them cities because they know that there's going to be this big tax burden for dealing with all of this obsolescent construction. There we go. And then on top of it, this is another thing that it hit me at the last second as I was hearing stories about more layoffs and seeing people being yeeted. The Yeet Patrol. Dude, that goal is huge. Dude, you're huge, bro. Wow. He's like, whoa, it made me feel awkward, buddy. Let's go, dude. He's like claiming his spot. He's like, I own this bitch. And so but anyway, it's my block. And so Bagok is my block. So the Yeet Patrol going around everywhere. And so I started to think about, okay, well, so there's going to be some effect on labor, shrinking the labor pool. But there's still an issue that I had thought about is, okay, like, have you kind of known people who you knew they sort of disappeared onto the streets, they went homeless, maybe were living in their car, but I mean, like, you don't really know where people have gone? I'm thinking a lot of like millennials are getting this, Gen Zers, where there's people that they're not really sure what happened to that guy or that gal. And that's another part of this issue of the Yeet Patrol yeeting people, is that we also are at some point going to have to get an idea of kind of who's alive or dead. And this is kind of a grim thought. So they always know the guy who's from Oregon. Just fucking loose pants, loose t-shirt, not giving a fuck, smoking ciggies. Holy shit. He's been colder than this. Holy crap, I love it. No, I'm not gonna show you guys, that'd be fucked up. But dudes like that always kind of get my respect. I'm like, you probably are psycho as hell. And that's what's keeping you warm, is your fuck, it's bottled up crazy. But like, holy shit. But yeah, I just started to think about, like, there is going to be a pinch somewhere. Something's got to give. That's the thing. Like the price of most real estate is very, very high. We're shrinking the labor pool. We have a shrinking population to an extent, the way that you could think of it. There's obsolescence of buildings. There's a lot of assets that are now questionable in their value. There's so much. And I'm just wondering what leg of the table is going to give. But also, I'm seeing a lot of stuff from Stephen Van Meter and Jay Bravo about, holy shit, it's time to get the parachute, prep, you motherfuckers, and all this kind of stuff. But, the fire's always burning with those fellows. I guess we'll see. All right, later.